Hello, garden lovers, and welcome to Marvin Gardens, August 2022. It is a delightful late August afternoon, mid-80s, not too humid, a gentle breeze blowing. I wish you could just sit here and enjoy the moment with me, but all you've got is the video. Unfortunately, it's not environment-o-vision. You know what I mean. Anyway, it's a delightful day. We are past what I call the high holy days of gardening. That generally is from the middle of September to the middle of August. But we've still got a lot going on. We're still doing a lot of harvesting, and it's still pretty delightful out here. So let me turn this around here and see if you can, you see the way. There we go. There's Frankie. Oh, by the way, excuse my cough, which I'm sure will recur throughout this video. I do have a bit of a summer cold. It is not COVID, however, so that's a good thing. And Frankie is sniffing around the fire pit, and the fire pit area is just waiting for us to have another fire pit, because we haven't had one in quite some time, because we just have so many other things going on. You know how that is. All right, so we'll step into the shadows here, and other than the garlic chives, which are holding their own quite well over here, it's pond iris bed here, and some weeds stuck in there too. I haven't really cleaned them out or anything, but it's really, what'd you find, boy? Is there something in the fire pit? And of course there is Cassie, my other gardening companion. He's definitely got a scent of something in there. I don't think there's anything in there, boy, but we'll look later. Yeah, I know. All right, so let's continue on, and so we don't completely turn this into an hour-long video. Come over, and you know what? We're gonna, we usually start with bed number one, but I'm going to start with the herb garden, which sometimes we sort of forget inadvertently. And you can see right down there we got basil. That's still doing fine. We've got rosemary here, and it might not be so easy to see, but there are some chives right down there too. And of course another stand of Asian leeks, or garlic chives, and they're blooming profusely, which means they're going to be creating lots of seeds. Very harvestable still. And look at this sage plant. From before, sometimes these sage plants just like all of a sudden they just die off, and the ones right next to them do fine. This one, incredible. It just is, nothing can stop it. It's the sage that never quit growing. Anyway, glad to see that there. Unfortunately, the other sages and the parsley and the sages beyond the parsley, no sign of that right now. That just happens sometimes. But we do have more rosemary coming in nicely right there still. And look at our creeping thyme. What a nice mound of it. And it's even blooming here in the back, as you can see. So that's kind of neat. And so the herb garden in general is doing pretty well. Now, back to officially bed number 1. Those are 2 fairly healthy looking rows of carrots. I just weeded the entire garden. You should have seen it yesterday. It would be totally embarrassing if I had actually shot the garden video without weeding. But I did get to all the weeding, and so it looks pretty good right now. Now, these 2 rows of carrots, I'll probably go in the next day or 2 and see if they need to be thinned out in places. But I did plant them a little bit sparsely so that it wouldn't be too hard to weed them. Now, these 2 zucchinis, which were just planted as afterthoughts because I had leftover plants, and they looked awfully anemic when I first put them in. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if I'll cut in some video, but they have outlasted the zucchini in the main summer squash bed and are still producing. I don't know if I can really get a good shot of one over here. Let me step into the bed for a second here and see if maybe I can find one, because I know that there's one. Can you see? Oops, right down there. I think the focus is on it. That's a zucchini that'll be ready shortly, and then there's 1 or 2, and there's lots more blooms coming in over on this side. And so unfortunately they started interfering with the radishes that I had planted over here, so I had to cut off the leaves and reroute the zucchini, and reroute it meaning just sort of pointing it in another direction rather than going over the radishes. But the next 2 rows over here, which are not really easy to see, are a row of radishes and turnips, and they seem to be doing okay. Again, I might go in there in the next day or 2 and see if there's some thinning to do. Now, that brings us to kaleets, which was is new for me this year. I think it's actually new being offered. Some of them have fallen down. They have a terrible infestation of white flies, which I'm trying to get rid of, and I'm beginning to see, I think, kaleets forming down in the joints of the leaf stems, but it doesn't look like we're anywhere close to harvesting. I'm going to have to treat him for white flies again, which hasn't been doing so well so far. But if you'll see right underneath the kaleets are cabbages, and these are storage number 4, which is my favorite cabbage, and you can probably see that there are several that are ready to go, some that are small, but even so, you want to make sure you harvest those guys before they split. So I think this coming week we're going to be pulling quite a few of those guys. Now, there's a couple of excuse me, cauliflower plants there, and I'm not sure what they're doing, because the other ones have all come in, and these guys are just sort of kind of hanging out and not really doing much. I don't even know what that one is. Forget about that. So we'll see if we get anything else out of those. I have not started a second planting of cauliflower. Don't know if I'm going to try to do that this year. But this group right here is Brussels sprouts. And if you look really closely down in there, you probably can see some Brussels sprouts forming, but once again, it's going to be quite a while before we see some actual harvest out of them. Now, I don't know what just happened, but the camera is kind of facing not where I wanted to. These are all leftover tomatoes, and they're starting to come in quite nicely. You probably see in there some shades of orange and red, meaning there's tomatoes are ready to go. I just don't know if I can get the camera aimed right to show them to you. But let me see. Yeah, kind of deep in there you can see a red tomato. And I'm not sure which varieties these are here, because they're just sort of, leftovers that I planted and I'm trying to keep upright. But they're doing pretty good, so can't complain there. Now, these are the cucumbers that was a gift pack, or what do they call it? I forget it. Free trial. And these are called Pale Armenian, or Armenian Pale. We've had quite a few cucumbers out of the patch, but they're starting to show their age, and we're getting some that look like that, which that's not really good. But we have some that still are coming in looking like that. Let me see, am I getting, there we go. Looking like that, that's not a bad looking cucumber, and they taste delicious. There's another one coming in that looks okay, but they're not really strong and consistent, if you know what I mean. But we've got lots of cucumbers, so all right, have I shown you? I think I've showed you everything over here, so let's go around and take a look at the pumpkins. And you might or might not notice that, let me get up close here so you don't get all screen. You can see those red-orange blobs of color all over the place, and indeed our 6 pumpkins are still doing fine, and you can see that there's some yellowing of the leaves on the vines, but that's typical for this time of year. The good news is that I haven't seen any bug infestations in there, and I haven't seen anything in the way of powdery mildew and stuff like that. So the treatments that I did when I planted them seem to be working just fine, and just see, that's just a nice looking pumpkin in there. I don't know, is it in focus? Anyway, looking forward to those. They should be good for pies. They're probably no good for carving, but that's okay. We don't do much of carving anyway. These are just another lovely sage plant, followed by a couple of basil plants, because I had extras, and they're doing okay now over here. Here's a there it is. Let me see if I can get it actually in focus. Oops, sorry, wrong way. Here we go. Okay, one Clemson spineless okra, a little larger than it should be, but the nice thing about this Clemson spineless is that excuse me, even when they get big, lots of times they're still edible. So we'll be picking that one pretty soon. Frankie's checking out whatever could be down in all that stuff. Right, boy? And meanwhile, you know who is attending to all the tough tasks so that I can just do all the fun stuff. My French ballerina. I love her. Okay. These are the firecracker sunflowers. All done for. It's time to come in and cut them down, I guess. But we enjoyed watching them out here, and we have lots of seeds to keep if we want to. But it's pretty much time to get them out of there. Meanwhile, our scallions, I'm still amazed at the scallions, at how big they can get and still be harvestable. You know, those don't look like the scallions you'd get in your grocery store, but you pull them, you pull out the outer leaves or layers, and you've got a perfectly good scallion, no matter how big they get. And they don't they don't bulb and they don't fall over. So we've just been harvesting them as we can use them. Now, this is a volunteer ground cherry plant, and I was expecting to see more of these guys, but this one came up in a good spot and wasn't bothering anybody else, so I left him. And he's gonna get some good results here. I'm trying to see if I can get in there. I can't see very well. This is one of Frankie's favorite plants. But there are some ground cherries that are on there already. But it's going to be until they those little sheaths turn yellow that they'll actually be ready to go. That's what you call a dachshund that's interested in gardening. Well, or he's interested in whatever else might be under there. These are the bachelor's buttons, and it's interesting, the ones on the far end, brown and done for, but they're still coming in on this end, and although smaller than in the main season, they're still bright blue, delightful blooms that we pick every once in a while. These are borage, also an edible flower that we like to put in salads if we can. This is a weed. Let's get that out of there. Excuse me. Get out of there. Okay. And none of the blooms are facing us really for some reason, but that's okay. They look like this. There we go. And in focus. Isn't that nice? Edible, tasty, a little spicy. Now, you might notice that there's nothing here, and that's because, although I think I have a picture of just before I harvested them, Ailsa Craig onions, which of the 3 varieties we planted this year, excuse me, they were the ones that actually had a very good harvest. The others were spotty at best, but we got some Patterson and we got some Red Wings, but we kind of used them as they came in, so we're not going to be putting much of it up. And while we're here, that's the Delphinium that came from Tara, and although it looks like it's pretty much done for, I understand it's a perennial, so I'm going to be potting that, keeping it for subsequent years. All right, now let's go on to besides my shadow. Let's go on to this guy, huh? This is that volunteer sunflower that came up that appears to be of the mammoth variety, but it's also a multi-blooming variety. So that's just one sunflower plant that has produced all these blossoms. And the earliest one up at the top there, right there, is long since looking good, but there's more coming in all over the place. And they have literally not really affected the Mad Hatter peppers that are growing all around them. And these guys, there's a good representation of them right here. You can kind of see those aren't bright red. When they're done, they're bright red, but those are oranging up, and then you can see all the green ones too coming in. And we've got lots of plants, some of which I need to stake up a little because they're kind of falling over, but they're all looking pretty good. And so as usual, pepper production is doing just fine. Now we've got another variety here, which I'm struggling to read the sign. Yankee Belt. No big ones here, but for example, you can see right there that that's and hopefully it's in focus. That's the kind of nice bell pepper peppers those are. And then these are the Carmens. You can see some of them are green, some of them are starting to turn red, some of them are almost completely red. So we love those coming in. I would like to wait until they're red to pull them, but they can be pulled if they're a good size and green. And then these are called a roulette, and they're what they are is I have hot pepper listed there, but they're not hot. They're supposed to be habaneros without the heat. That's how they're advertised. Now, unfortunately, I can't attest to that because I haven't tasted one yet. But we've pulled quite a few, and as you can see, the plants look really nice and they're coming in quite well. So, good news all around in the pepper department. All right, so let me step back and turn up and show you this. Now, these are sunflowers. Now, I did not plant any sunflower seeds this year. These are the ones that were coming up in what was going to be the corn bed, and Vanina pulled them and put them in mini pots, and I planted them in here as a row. And they, if you might remember, they looked really anemic to begin with. They have more than made up for that. And one of them, by the way, that center one, right there, that one also has the multiple blooms. So some of them are big sunflowers with a single bloom, but some of them are big sunflowers with a multiple bloom. So, looking good. Now, down here we have straw flowers, and I think Vanina just cut a bunch of those. But here's one down. Let me see if I can get this one. Yeah, there we go. There's one, typical, and they almost come in as dried flowers, which is nice because when you cut them, they stay for you. And putting some posts and strings up here to keep them upright has made a big difference too. This is calendula. There's two different varieties here, and the same thing. I've managed to keep them upright, and we just come in here and clip out a bouquet of them from time to time, and they've just been delightful and coming strong for months now, literally. Now, we've had issues with our eggplant. You can see that there is a, if I can find it, yeah, right there, a delightful looking eggplant right there, though small, and there's another one right down there, and then there's a delightful looking dachshund right there, checking it out. But here we got one dead eggplant. It just, the plant just died, and the little eggplants are just shriveled up, so that's not good. But you know, what can you do, you know? Now there's a very good sized eggplant. This is, I think, it might be one of the store-boughts. So we need to get that one before something else happens. And there's two more little ones here, and at the very end, in between those calendulas, is another dead eggplant, and then there's a dachshund bud receding into the flowers. All right, so now this may look like a very sad picture, and in fact, when you compare it to late May, June, July, which maybe I'll intercut here, I don't know, it does seem like a sad scene, but this is post a fantastic corn harvest. This is sugar buns, and we started harvesting them in July, continued in August. I don't remember the total count. I think in the 150 range. Maybe I'll put a footnote as to how many they were. But that's the reason why this isn't really a sad picture, because it's the evidence of an extremely acceptable or abundant corn harvest. And for those who are interested, it does appear that I can eat an ear or two of corn without really throwing my glucose all off, so I'm even enjoying them. Excuse me again. Now, you'll also see things like this hanging around here, because this used to be the sunflower bed, and we had several volunteer sunflowers come up, and they've bloomed nicely, and I'm sure that the birds are enjoying the sunflower seed harvest. So that's that. Now, on to bed number, whatever this is, 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. And this, oh, my camera work was great there. This is the summer squash patch, and you'll notice some vacancies here, because you know, whenever they start to get really droopy, I pull them out and throw them outside the garden, because I don't want them to affect any of the others. Now, we haven't got any zucchini left here, but these yellow crookneck squash have continued to do fine, and luckily our backup zucchinis that I showed you early on are still doing fine over there by the brassicas. So that brings us to tomatoes that are already also having a great year. These are aromas, I think, but all the labels are on the other end. Well, not so. This one, Verona Roma. You know, forgive me. I'm not sure. Let me come around here and see if I can figure out what's going on. Oh, and look who helped himself to one. Is that a good one, boy? You can pick him as long as you eat him. That one looks a little green still, but help yourself. All right. So there's some of the massive remnants of the weeding that we did. I don't see much in the way of signage over here either. So all I can say is this is our beefsteak variety over there, and we just did a pretty big harvest here, so they're not all hanging out. That's a new girl, but as you can see, all the tomatoes are busting out of the top of the cages. This unfortunately is an heirloom that got past us, but right down there, a little bit lower, is one that's yet to be ready, but we'll catch that one in time. And we did get a bunch of them, really good size. We've been having delightful slices of tomatoes on every sandwich variety that Vanina has concocted. And speaking of mammoth volunteer sunflowers, there's one. Sometimes I don't even appreciate them because they just come up on their own. But it's interesting. Look at the shaft on this thing, and if I can manage to get that, you see how big that is? It's like a tree. They're incredible. Now that brings us really to the end of the garden proper, and that's pole beans. You're not seeing much right now, but we just did a huge harvest of the red noodle yard-long beans and the green beans, all of which are coming in still like crazy. So really good harvest going on there. This is just, of course, the backside of the pumpkin house, but there you can see a nice red-orange rouge vif en temps pumpkin. And that's actually right there is a female bloom. Amazingly enough, I don't think it's going to do anything, but it's kind of interesting that it's blooming that late. This is bee balm, pretty much done for the season. And then we got our marsh, which has expanded into the garden. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 actual cattails that have formed, but dozens of cattail plants that are coming up all over the place. And we've obviously had to change our mowing strategy in order to preserve those guys. So. All right, you know what? The French ballerina is out there mowing everything that's overgrown, as she is prone to do in a most excellent manner. And the only other thing to show you garden-wise really is the asparagus patch. And I'm not even going to walk out there. I'll just show you some drone footage. I did manage to weed it once. I have a feeling there might still be some weeding necessary out there, but it's not looking too bad. I still have to look up what to do to keep an asparagus patch healthy. Part of it is having a great gardening partner like the one you're watching right now. But let's continue on. Look who's just following us all around. Mr. Franklin. He's a good gardening buddy too. So, let's see. If I just do this, that brings us back to normal. Look who else is here. It's Cassie. She's doing fine. She likes being out in the garden. Although she prefers to know where I'm going and peep me there. I already kind of showed you the fire pit area, which is looking inviting as usual. And the only problem is we can't seem to find the time to get out here and enjoy it. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Our also equally neglected hammock. I'm going to make a point of lying down in it sometime while the weather's good. Here's our water features. The water hyacinths are doing great. So is the mini horsetails. I'm not sure about our pond irises that we had in there, little ones. We've got a tomato plant here that's doing okay, and our other water feature, which is also pretty much being taken over by the water hyacinths. So nothing much else really to show you out here, so let's go take a look at the pond. Excuse me, and wrap this thing up. I will let the dogs come out. Right, guys. Close the gate behind me. And we'll take a look at the pond. It needs some attention. It's a little overgrown, but otherwise looking fine. Looks like maybe I need to pay some attention to the koi feeder, because it looks like the food is kind of clumped up there. But all the other pond plants are doing as well as can be expected. We've got lots of we've got lots of I can't come up with the plant, and I just said it out there before. But anyway, there's lots of plants out here, and pretty soon I'll come up with the name water hyacinths, which is what those are. None of them are blooming right now, but our other plants, excuse me, I can't come up with that name either, are blooming just fine. And our remaining koi is looking happy. If not, I don't know if fish are in need of companionship, but maybe we'll get a couple more to introduce in there, as long as he doesn't eat them. This has suddenly turned morbid. All right, so we got a few marigolds hanging out here. You can see all the water hyacinths and the other purple-ish flowers that I can never remember the name of, doing just fine. We got water hyacinths hanging out in our overflow pond plant tub, and we got bloomin' who's what's this here. I'm doing great with names, aren't I? Our impatiens under the wishing well, aka propane tank, are doing just fine, and everything else is looking pretty good around back here, although I haven't opened up the umbrella on the picnic table. The pond is hanging out, waiting for us to have enough time to actually get into it. And other than that, there's not much else to show you one way or the other. So let me turn this around and turn this around, and let's see. I will then say that there's nothing more that I can think of to show you or share with you for Marvin Gardens August. Are we in focus? Sorry. August 2022. Like I say, a beautiful day here. We're starting to wind down as far as garden production goes, but we still have a fair amount of ways to go, and I still have second plantings to do, which I will be doing. Oh, I've got one other thing I need to show you. Isn't this exciting? I think I mentioned that I harvested the Elsa Craig onions, and they are hanging out in the greenhouse. And there they are. Let me just, I don't know why this thing does what it does. But anyway, sometimes the LCD screen that I use to look at what the camera is seeing just turns off at particular tilt angles. So that's why this camera work is so terrible right now. But look at the size of those Alyssa Craig onions. You know, I mean, those are really fine, and we've got a good collection of them. I'm gonna make a rough guess at 20 to 30 pounds, but they really came through. We didn't have much of a harvest of the red onions or the Pattersons, most of which are sitting right there, which we've been using all along. I mean, they were fine, the ones that we got. It's just that we didn't get that many of them, that's all. All right, so now I seem to need to turn this up, turn this over, turn that on, and that's not a very good, no, that's not very good either. All right, so in spite of my camera work, we've come to the end of Marvin Gardens August 2022, and now you've seen everything. So we are looking at meteorological fall in a little over a week, believe it or not, which is September 1st. So we'll see you next month in September, Marvin Gardens, August 2022. Bye, y'all.